Welcome to Mock Draft 5.0. It's me, Jace, and you guys are back on my channel as we do our fifth installment of the first round of the 2021 NFL Mock Draft. The draft is so close. The draft, it's the, like I always say, if you're a draftnik, it is the best time of the year. It is our Christmas. And so we're going to jump into it. I did another mock draft. A lot of pro days have finished. More stuff on prospects have come out. So I decided to do this fifth installment of the mock draft here, as I am going to be every single team in the NFL draft. So we're going to start it here with the top three picks of the NFL draft. I believe for the last two mock drafts, pretty much since the trade happened with the San Francisco 49ers, my top three picks have been the same. It's been Trevor Lawrence, it's been Zach Wilson, and it's been Justin Fields. I believe those are the top three quarterback prospects. I think Justin Fields does some things better than Trevor Lawrence, and I don't think that's a conversation people want to have, because Trevor Lawrence is, the legendary prospect. But I just think that I think Zach Wilson and Justin Fields do some things better than Trevor Lawrence. But I think Trevor Lawrence, was a more successful quarterback. And so I think that's why he goes number one. Wilson goes two, and Justin Fields goes three. I don't want to say it would shock me if Justin Fields went two, because it wouldn't. But I just think the Jets are so dead set on Zach Wilson, and the 49ers are content with just landing Justin Fields. So as I said, the top three picks are the same, and so is the fourth pick. The Denver Broncos are going to trade up, as always, to get Trey Lance here. So I'm going to throw this into the simulator machine. As I throw in, they're going to swap ones, so 9 for 4. Denver's also going to give up a 1 next year, and then they're going to give up a 3 next year, 3 the following year. And then I guess we could throw in a second. If you wanted to throw in like an additional, like a second in 2024, if you wanted to do that, I mean, you're more than welcome to do that. But that's what I would do. Or we could actually, because we're mocking the Philadelphia Eagles Cleveland Browns trade for Carson Wentz, so we'll give up the second rounder this year because that's kind of what they did. So we'll mock that trade, send that over to Atlanta. And Atlanta is going to accept the offer, as always. We're going to take Trey Lance. So top four of the mock draft is pretty much the same as it's been for the last couple mock drafts. Here's where it kind of differs when we get to pick 5, because I think the Bengals will have a decision to make. Your decision will be Jamar Chase and Dylan Radunz, or Penei Sewell and Rondale Moore. Like that's the option that you have to weigh. So me personally, I would lean towards the first option. But I have to think like the Bengals when I do a mock draft about the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think the Bengals will just play it safe here and take Penei Sewell. Bengals great, Anthony Munoz endorsed Penei Sewell as well. I think that holds a lot of weight, for the Tobins. And what they're doing in Cincinnati with Zach Taylor. So I think that's really important. So I'm going to go ahead and give them Penei Sewell. I mean, he's your left tackle for the next decade. Keep Joe Burrow upright. And maybe T. Higgins can develop into a number one guy. Who knows? But I believe they're going to take Penei Sewell, but I would take Jamar Chase. So give them Penei Sewell. The Miami Dolphins are going to be on the clock here. And much like I talked about before, I think this team is better off adding a second tight end than another receiver, right? Because I think Tua needs a weapon that can take up space, that is kind of big, kind of tall, and can climb the ladder to catch the ball. And I think 12 personnel is the perfect scheme for Tua, the perfect system for Tua. So adding Kyle Pitts, with Mike Gesicki, I think that helps Tua more than adding, a Jalen Waddle. So I'm going to go Kyle Pitts here. That's pretty much the same as before. But as we get to pick 7, no receiver is off the board. So that kind of tells you where the value of receiver is going to be, because I'm almost 100% sure the Lions are taking a receiver come April 29th, right? Will that be the first receiver? We don't know. It could be the third receiver. Receivers could go at 5 and 6, and the Lions are left with, a Kyle Pitts or Devontae Smith. Like, we just don't know, right? So, I think in that situation, you may want to just take Devontae Smith because you have a tight end and TJ Hawkinson that you drafted that hasn't really worked out. You suck with tight ends. I'm sorry. The Lions just suck with tight ends. But the Lions need receivers more than anything because they have the worst receiving core in the world. They are horrible. They stink. You need to add a true number one receiver. There's a guy at Louisiana State University who called 20 touchdowns. And he can slide in and be your number one receiver. And that guy is Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase gets to go to Detroit, play with Jared Goff and that scheme and be the number one guy. I think Jamar Chase is the receiver that can come in and slide into your number one spot and take over. That's how good I think he is, right? Like, I don't think he's a guy that can go in and be the third receiver as a rookie, then work his way up the depth chart. No, I'm talking about come September, week 1, he's starting. Like, that's how good I think he is. And so I think the Lions will agree with me. I think if Jamar Chase is here, I mean, they're going to, how like on NFL Network and ESPN, they have the clock counting down. It'll say 10 minutes, 9:59, 9:58 picks in that quickly. That's how fast this should be to get Jamar Chase to Detroit. Pick 8 is going to be the Carolina Panthers here. The Carolina Panthers have an offensive lineman on the board. I know for Panthers fans, it's going to be very tempting, to potentially take a Patrick Surtain II or a J.C. Horn, but I think offensive line is going to help this team out more. Kyle Pitts is not there. If he was, I would probably take Kyle Pitts, but he's not there. Now, I know the Panthers, according to Adam Schefter, the Panthers have been talking about moving their pick. And if Rashawn Slater's there, they're not moving. Like, it's not logical to move if Rashawn Slater's there, right? I can understand moving if Rashawn Slater's gone, Penei Sewell's gone, Kyle Pitts is gone. Like, I can understand that, but I don't even see how that would even happen, right? So I think the Panthers should stay put, and they get a steal at pick 8. I mean, Rashawn Slater is the perfect guy for the Panthers, whether they want to play him at left guard or left tackle. He'll be the best player at that position on their team as a rookie. They have plenty of weapons on offense. They still need a tight end. Maybe they can get Freiermuth in the second round, or Brevin Jordan, or someone like that in the second round to play tight end if they feel that tight end is that valuable, right? But I think Rashawn Slater is the perfect pick here. Keep Sam Darnold upright and let him pave holes for CMC. And I don't see how this is a bad thing at all for the Panthers, especially for the fans. They've been clamoring for offensive line, since Marty Herney was the GM, and it's poetic that the first year he's not the GM, they draft offensive line in the first round and not a linebacker, so the Atlanta Falcons did end up moving down with the Denver Broncos, but much like last time, they're going to move down again because they need edge rushers. And there's no edge rusher worthy of going top 10. I'm sorry. I just don't see that in my opinion. I don't believe that the value is there. I think if you can possibly get down to like 15, or something like that, I think that's where you could take your edge rusher and be comfortable with the edge rusher you've taken. So, since I mentioned 15, New England's going to give Atlanta a call because New England needs a quarterback, right? Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are pretty good friends. They know each other. And I believe that he's going to call Nick Saban to talk about Mac Jones. See how Mac Jones is as a person. Mac Jones did have a couple DUIs that nobody seems to talk about, which I think is pretty interesting, to say the least. But I think that that's something that can be alarming to a team. But I think for what the Patriots want to do at the quarterback position and how they've always ran the quarterback position. I think Mac Jones is the perfect player to do that. I think Josh McDaniels can tailor his offense to Mac Jones, because I still believe that Mac Jones is a very underrated deep ball thrower, with 17 TDs, on passes over 20 yards, like that's a big deal, and I also think he can work the middle of the field with Jonnu Smith and those tight ends as well. So I think Mac fits this team. So what we're going to do is we're going to give up a 2021 first. So we're going to swap 15 for 9 and 2021 second. So New England's going to give up 46. So we'll look at it like this. It'll go 15, 46, and a 3 next year. So we'll give up to go up to 9 with Atlanta. So we'll see if Atlanta takes the offer here. So Atlanta will take the offer. And very quickly, we're not going to do a trade. We're going to look at Atlanta's draft capital for a second, because I think that's really important. Let's just say they trade with the Texans, whatever. It doesn't matter. But look at Atlanta's draft capital. They have 15, 35, 40, 40. They have 3 picks in the second round. That's how you build a team. Like, you don't build a team with 1 first-round pick. You see all that capital? That's how you build your team. Look at 2022, 2 1s, 2 2s, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, and a 7. That's how you build your team. I think Atlanta, by trading twice, I think Atlanta is in a position to be a very successful football team down the line. But we'll talk about them when we get to pick 15. So the New England Patriots are going to come up here. They're going to select Mac Jones. And I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think it's that big of a gap between Mac Jones and Davis Mills, right? Like this they have him ranked 82nd. I think he could go late second. I don't think it's that big of a drop off, honestly. But so Mac Jones goes to New England. Dallas Cowboys are on the clock here. Patrick Surtain II is the pick here. Like I said in mock draft 4.0, I still believe that J.C. Horn is CB1, but Dallas, they tend to lean towards the bigger schools. USC, LSU, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Those are where they've drafted players in the first and second rounds of drafts in the last decade. And I think Alabama is going to be a school that they would lean towards over South Carolina. Is that wise? Maybe not. Maybe it's different because Jason Garrett's not there. I have no idea. But what I do know is that I think that they're going to take a more refined player in Patrick Surtain, who's a technician. But I think J.C. Horn is more of a dog, and that's what I want in my secondary. But I think the Cowboys will go ahead and take Patrick Surtain II here. They're also a trade option as well, as Stephen Jones was on 105.3 The Fan talking about how they've gotten calls about their pick. And I think if the quarterbacks fall the way that I have them falling, I don't see a scenario where Cincinnati, Miami, Detroit, or Carolina move from their pick. I just think that they're going to stay where they are and take that top player. But I think Dallas is a position where they could move, and they could possibly move with New England. If one of these teams wanted to hop up to get their offensive lineman, they could possibly do that. Somebody wants to come up to get one of the receivers because Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle are still on the board, and New York and Philadelphia are there, and they both could use receivers. Offensive linemen, like there's a lot of things people can jump up for. Like I think people have this idea that the only thing you come up for, or the only thing teams will come up for in this draft, is going to be the quarterbacks, and that's simply not true. Like if you're a team picking at the back half of the draft, like Pittsburgh, and you need offensive line, and Christian Darrisaw's there at 17, absolutely you can jump up. If Rashawn Slater falls to 10, where Dallas is, or he falls to 9, where Atlanta was picking, and Atlanta doesn't want him, I'm pretty sure the Colts could jump up, give up a 1, and get Christian Darrisaw or get Rashawn Slater. Like, I believe that there's going to be more trades for different positions. No one's talking about that. Everyone's just talking about quarterbacks and we can move for this quarterback here and then this. But it's like, no, like someone's going to move up and try to get Surtain or try to get Horn, or try to get Pitts, I think we need to be talking more about other positions besides quarterback when it comes to trading up in the draft, right? So New York Giants are going to be on the clock here, and they did go out and sign Kenny Golladay to play wide receiver because they needed receiver help badly. And it's going to be tempting for the Giants to take Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith here. And hell, it was tempting for me to, in this mock draft as well. But linebacker is still a priority for me when it comes to this team. I tend to trust Darius Slayton and Kenny Golladay and a returning Saquon Barkley. So I think Micah Parsons goes here. He's a tackling machine who I wish had more takeaways in college. But I think he fits this team, to a T. But over the last year or so, really over the last decade, the NFC East has been known as the NFC least and all this stuff. But I think those teams in the NFC East are building something with Washington's defensive line, the Giants, in their defense, and then getting their stud running back, back from injury, and then adding Kenny Golladay and having the offensive line together. Dallas with, getting healthy with paying Dak and drafting CeeDee Lamb, and, Philadelphia, which we'll talk about next, as this is going to segue into the Eagles with Philadelphia, being on the clock here at pick 12, and Philadelphia adding a guy like Devontae Smith to their team. I think this division that's been a laughing stock is going to become a really tough division in the next few years because these teams in this division are adding pieces and having draft capital to help build their team. So I would keep my eye out, my eyes on the NFC East. But like, if you're an Eagles fan though, can you imagine scoring Devontae Smith at 12? Like, Howie has tried desperately to fix the wide receiver core and he keeps missing. But I think Howie scores a home run with this pick. And it's a home run not because they got Devontae Smith at 12, but it's a home run because of what they have plus Devontae Smith, right? So here's what I mean. Philly has a bunch of capital next year as well, so they can continue to add to their team in the 2021 draft and 2022. So including pick 12 this year, the Eagles have 9 picks in the top 3 rounds of the NFL draft over the next 2 years. You could get an additional first if Carson Wentz plays 70% of the snaps in Indy. So then that would give you, then you would have 12 picks in the top 3 rounds, over the next few years or so, when you add on the stuff that you'll have from 2022. And then you also have 2 first. And like I said, that conditional second that could turn into a first. So hell, come 2022, you could be picking 3 times in the first round of the NFL draft if you're the Eagles, and you'd have Devontae Smith. And a quarterback on a rookie deal. On a second round rookie deal at that. I'm telling you. I'm not a psychic, but I love what the NFC East is doing. They're adding pieces to their teams, and it's I think in a couple years we're going to be talking about how good Howie Roseman looks as a GM and not how incompetent he looks. So I think Devontae Smith goes to Philadelphia. And so the Los Angeles Chargers are on the clock here, and they need offensive line help. They need to protect Justin Herbert just as much as Cincinnati needs to protect Joe Burrow. Now, Christian Darrisaw is currently the top tackle on the board. I believe Christian Darrisaw is the second best offensive tackle in the entire draft. I think he's a better tackle than Rashawn Slater. But I had Slater going earlier because of the position flex, and I believe he'll slide in at guard in Carolina and be an all-pro guard. But Darrisaw had 35 starts at left tackle, which is the exact position the Los Angeles Chargers need. And so I'm going to go ahead and just give them Christian Darrisaw here. I just think it makes too much sense. I think it'll be sexy. It'll be a sexy pick to take Jalen Waddle, or one of the corners, but keep your guy upright, and just go from there, man, because Justin Herbert is going to be a baller. And if you can give him a left tackle to protect his blind side, that man's going to be a problem for a really long time in the NFL. So the Minnesota Vikings are going to be on the clock here. They need interior offensive line help. One of the things that I've done in previous mock drafts is give them Rashawn Slater. But Rashawn Slater's gone. They need an edge rusher. I could give them Jalen Phillips, who actually his comp is more of a Danielle Hunter, so it would fit perfectly, in Minnesota. But I think when you have a guy sitting on the board like Elijah Vera Tucker, I think that's a guy you have to take. 13 starts at left guard, 6 at left tackle. They need interior offensive line help so badly. It's not even funny. Mason Cole is going to be the left guard of Minnesota, but he's not good. He's a free agent after this year as well. AVT is a road grader in the run game. He will pancake you, put you into the dirt, and he will pave the way for Dalvin Cook. And so I believe Elijah Vera Tucker is going to be the pick here. And it's kind of funny, though, because I had Elijah Vera Tucker falling out of mock draft 4.0, and it was more so how the board fell and how I had a lot of receivers going. And I just thought that he would go later in the draft, but with Minnesota being wiped out with Darisaw, Sewell, and Slater, you have to take the next best guard, and that's going to be Elijah Vera Tucker. So pick 15, the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock here. They're going to go ahead and take Jalen Phillips. Phillips has the elite athleticism. He was the number one recruiting prospect out of his class in 2017, but the medical issues, the concussions, the moped, the transfer, it was a lot going on with Jalen Phillips. He sat out a year. He played one season at Miami, but he had 8 sacks and 15.5 for loss in 10 games. If he can remain healthy, he's going to be the best edge rusher out of this class. And I'm talking about like 4 or 5 years from now. But I still believe that right now, today, he is the best edge rusher. And the only thing that is hindering him from going higher is injuries. That is it. That's it. That's the only thing keeping me from Atlanta taking him at 9. Like, it's the injuries. I would much rather, if I'm Atlanta at 9, I would much rather, move down to 15 where I know I'm going to get my guy, because I know that offensive lineman and wide receiver and linebacker is going to go before my next pick. No one's going to take my edge rusher, right? So I would much rather, if I'm Atlanta, I would move. I would pick up 46 and I'd pick up a third next year and still get my guy plus all the draft capital. I think that makes too much sense. So I'm going to go ahead and take Jalen Phillips here. The Arizona Cardinals are going to be doing backflips because they're going to get J.C. Horn here. J.C. Horn is going to bring a personality to the secondary that they don't have. There isn't a guy that's in the secondary that's like, give me you. I want you, I want you, Amari Cooper. I want you, Keenan Allen. Like, I want the number one receiver. I want you, DK Metcalf. Like, they don't have that guy in their secondary. And I think that is a dog. And I think Arizona needs that in their secondary. They need an identity in their secondary. They lost their leader in Patrick Peterson, and I think J.C. Horn's going to come in and take over that room, and they're going to become a really good secondary. And what I want to see is I want to see some training camp battles where I want to see him go to the practice field and say, where's Nook? Line up against me, man coverage. I want to see that, because that is the type of corner that J.C. Horn is, to go onto the first day of camp and line up against DeAndre Hopkins. That's what type of person that is. And that's the kind of guy you want at corner and the kind of guy you want on your team. He's a dog. J.C. Horn goes to Arizona. So pick 17, the Las Vegas Raiders are going to be on the clock here. And of course, I had been mocking, Tevin Jenkins to them for a really long time. But the reason I had been doing that at 17 was because Jalen Waddle was never there. But the way this board has fallen, Jalen Waddle has fallen to pick 17. Now, the Las Vegas Raiders are not taking Jalen Waddle, right? The Tennessee Titans are. So the Tennessee Titans are going to contact Mike Mayock, and they're going to jump up with the Las Vegas Raiders. They're going to swap ones, of course. Tennessee is also going to give up their third-round pick as well, which will be enough, according to the trade chart, to jump up to get their guy. So Waddle is 5'9", 180, and that's scary for some people, but I think that means he's explosive. 18.9 per reception is second in Alabama history behind Ozzie Newsome, and he played tight end. So the only issue that I really have with him, of course, is the ankle injury as well, and the separation. If you get your hands on Jalen Waddle, I think it can be problematic because he's not really a guy that's going to fight you off of press. But if you give him a free release, it's going to be problematic for you. The Titans offense needs an explosive receiver. They have A.J. Brown. They have Derrick Henry. And I think if you add a guy who's a do-it-all kind of weapon for Ryan Tannehill, I think that's going to be really good for the Tennessee Titans. So the Miami Dolphins are on the clock here. And if I'm the Dolphins, it'd be kind of interesting, though, to see what the Dolphins would do. Because hypothetically speaking, right, let's say the Raiders stayed at 17 and they took Tevin Jenkins, right? And they got their guy, Tevin Jenkins. And then what if the Dolphins came back at pick 18 and Jalen Waddle was still there? Would you take Jalen Waddle along with Kyle Pitts that you took at 6? Can you imagine that? Landing Kyle Pitts and Jalen Waddle? That, man, listen, Chris Greer and Brian Flores they'd be hitting moonsaults. So I'm going to go with Zizo Jalari here. They still need pass rush help with Emmanuel Agua being under contract for one more year. Ojulari did lead the SEC in tackles for loss, forced fumbles, and sacks. The SEC. So that kind of lets you know just how good of an edge rusher he is. I don't think he has a lot of edge rush moves just yet, but I think if he does, I think we'll be having a conversation about him and Jalen Phillips about who's the best rusher out of this draft class. So the Washington football team is on the clock here, and part of me wanted to give them Tevin Jenkins, just because of the help that they could use on the offensive line. But I just think with John Bostic being a free agent after the 2021 season and Cole Holcomb being a free agent after the 2022 season, I think you have to go linebacker here. I mean, with those linebackers, they finished second in defense behind the Rams. Like the second best defense. That's incredible with those average linebackers in an average secondary. That's what happens when you have a monster of a defensive line. They did add William Jackson to the secondary. And I think adding a guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, to their team is going to help them out a lot. I think, Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio can have this guy be a type of Swiss Army knife in their defense. I think JOK is a guy. JOK does so much stuff that I don't think a lot of teams know how to work with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, right? Like, I don't think a team like, let's just say Dallas, for example, right? I don't think Dallas would know how to use Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, right? But I believe a defensive coordinator like Jack Del Rio would know how to use him. And I think that's why JOK is going to be the pick here. Zaven Collins is an interesting pick. But as I said before about Zaven Collins, I don't know what Zaven Collins is, right? I don't know. He doesn't have the pass rush moves to rush the passer, but he's not fast enough and athletic enough to drop into a zone and be a really good zone player. He's just big as hell and takes up room. So JOK is going to be the pick here. Jamin Davis is an attractive option as well, but JOK and his athleticism is going to be the pick here for me. So the Chicago Bears are on the clock here. And Chicago, Caleb Farley would be an interesting option here. But the more I do research on Caleb Farley's back, the more I get a little scared. And the more I believe Chicago is going to be scared as well. Just because, who has a back injury that gets better? Nobody, right? But I think a team that is desperate for a corner will come get Caleb Farley, right? And I think Chicago's top need is going to be offensive line anyway, which they can get, and they can also pick up, let's say an additional, third? I guess they could give that, and pick that up and also get their offensive lineman. So there's going to be a trade here. So it'll be, first let's go to the NFC. It'll be Chicago Bears. And in the AFC, it'll be the Pittsburgh Steelers, who lost 2 corners to free agency. And they are going to give up. They're going to swap ones. And Pittsburgh is going to give up 87. And this is a little too rich according to the chart. So if anything, I would probably throw in like a 5th next year just to see if that could do it. But that 3rd round pick is going to be a little bit too rich on the chart. But giving up next year's 5, would probably be the move here. I mean, you're picking up you're picking up another top 100 pick. Chicago gives up a 5th round pick that they won't hit on anyway. So we'll see if they take it. So they're going to take the offer here. And Pittsburgh is going to come up to select Caleb Farley. you want to get in front of Indianapolis, just because Indianapolis, would want to replace Rock Yassin. And so Caleb Farley could be that guy. But I think with Caleb Farley going 20, I think Indianapolis and Chris Ballard are going to be very, very happy about what's on the board here. So Chris Ballard went on 107.5 The Fan, and he said we have 4 really good offensive linemen. That's what he said. He didn't say we had 5. He said we have 4. So he made it known that we're set at 4 positions on the offensive line, but we need one more. Braden Smith is an emerging right tackle, and he had a really good season last year. But the player that I want to give them played right tackle in college. But they've been discussing flipping, whether it's Quentin Nelson or Braden Smith, to left tackle. I wouldn't touch Quentin Nelson. I would keep him exactly where he is. But I could see Braden Smith flipping to left tackle. Absolutely. And you go ahead and slide in Tevin Jenkins to play right tackle. That's what I could see happening. So I know the Raiders are kind of kicking themselves as well because Tevin Jenkins was their guy. But Alex Leatherwood is sitting there on the board, and he's a versatile offensive lineman. The Raiders got to move down and pick up another top 100 pick. Alex Leatherwood had 26 starts at left tackle, 15 at right guard, 41 straight starts in his career as well. He's not as strong with his hands as Christian Darrisaw, but he's a quality starter that can play opposite Colton Miller. And I think that versatility is what's going to make him an attractive option. And I think the Raiders will understand that, hey, we can get this 3rd round pick and still get Leatherwood. We might not get Tevin Jenkins, but we get a more versatile offensive lineman prospect while picking up, an additional 3rd round pick, which would be pick 85. So they're going to go ahead and select Alex Leatherwood. The New York Jets are going to be on the clock here, and they're going to go ahead and take Kwity Paye. When you look at other mocks, you'll see Kwity Paye like slotted at 10 to Dallas, and then you see Kwity Paye slotted down at 26 to Cleveland. Like, it fluctuates because he's an acquired taste, right? Kwity Paye is very good against the run, which is what a lot of Michigan defensive ends that come out are good at, but he's not a good pass rusher. He's just not. But I think if you add him to the Jets roster with a defensive-minded head coach, they can develop some pass rush moves. I think when he's that good against the run, I think he's worthy of going in the 1st round. But I don't think he's a better edge rusher than Azeez Ojulari or Jalen Phillips, which is why I have him as a 3rd edge rusher off the board, going to the New York Jets. So Kwity Paye goes there. Chicago's on the clock here, and they need offensive linemen to keep Andy Dalton upright. There is a guy that has position flex. He played 30-plus games at offensive tackle, 14 at right, 21 at left. He needs to be better as a pass blocker, but he's a good prospect here at pick 24. Jermaine Ifedi is slotted at right tackle as of now, but he's only on a 1-year deal. I think if you slide this guy in, you'll have success, and he'll solidify your tackle position. That guy is Sam Cosby out of Texas. I think that you have to get better on the offensive line if you're Chicago. You have to get better on offense in general if you're Chicago, because that defense, I think, I don't want to say anything crazy, but I think that defense can take you deep into the playoffs. That offense might get you picking at pick 14. Like that's how much they fluctuate. You got to get better on offense. So Travon Merrick is going to go to Jacksonville here at pick 25. As I said before, he was, all Big 12 in 2019 and 2020. He was a second-team All-American, the Jim Thorpe Award winner, first-team All-Conference, 6 interceptions and 20 PBUs in 22 games. I think that's a great value here at 25. As I say before, any position besides special teams is worthy of going in the 1st round. I don't give a damn what nobody says. Whether that's a running back or that's a center, I don't care. If you feel like that player is good and can be great and is worthy of the 5th-year option, take them in the 1st round. Do that. Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and give Jacksonville Travon Merrick. It's been a pretty consistent thing over the last couple mock drafts. They need to get better in the secondary. Pair him up with C.J. Henderson in the secondary, and they'll continue remaking that Jags defense. That could be a really good defense in the next few years. I would go ahead and give Travon Merrick to Jacksonville. So then Cleveland's going to be on the clock here. And in 4.0, I mentioned how the Browns were meeting with Jadeveon Clowney, and they ended up signing him. And now they still need interior help. We don't know how good, Christian Barmore is against the run, but he's deadly against the pass. 65 quarterback pressures at defensive tackle is insane. Didn't really play the run in college, but I'm taking 65 quarterback pressures in the first round. I'm sorry. You have to. It's a weak defensive tackle class. I won't lie. Barmore looks way more attractive because the class is so weak, but he had 65 quarterback pressures. That's worthy of first round. And I think late first round is where he should be. I don't think Christian Barmore should not be in the top 20 of any draft. No defensive tackle should. Hell, if the first edge rusher went at 15, you think a defensive tackle going 16? No. I think late first is where the defensive tackles are going to come off the board. So Christian Barmore goes to Cleveland. Eric DaCosta is, I believe, thinking like me. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I believe that they're going back and forth between wide receiver and edge rusher. Two of the biggest needs in Baltimore. Now, I would tend to lean towards wide receiver here as more conversations have kind of kickstarted about Lamar Jackson's contract extension. He's going to receive a lot of money really soon, and you need a cheap weapon to throw to. Mark Andrews has been a home run, and I think adding a guy like Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota, in his 2,400 receiving yards in college, which was actually sixth in Gophers history in football. So he's versatile. He lined up at X, Y, and Z on the field. He can play anywhere in Greg Roman's offense. And I think that's a pretty big target for Lamar Jackson to throw to. And I think let's move Hollywood Brown possibly to the slot and possibly double dip, in the second or third or fourth round to add another weapon to add, with Hollywood Brown and Devin Duvernay and Rashad Bateman. I think you could have something. So Rashad Bateman is going to be the pick here. The New Orleans Saints are on the clock here, and wide receiver and cornerback have been two of the biggest needs for the Saints, and that's why I've kind of gone back and forth with that. It was either cornerback, wide receiver, or trade and pick up more picks. That's what it was, right? But I'm going corner this time around just because your number one corner and Marshawn Lattimore is out here trying to be Kadarius Toney with these guns. He's trying to have stolen guns, and the police said that he had a loaded handgun in his possession, and they determined that it was stolen, and he was charged with a fourth degree felony of receiving stolen firearms. And I'm just like, bruh, I don't understand. It really annoys me when I see players do stuff like this. Alden Smith just got his 80th chance in the NFL, and he's out here choking people unconscious. I'm like, what is the point? People are paying you a bunch of money to play the thing that you love, and all you got to do is not do anything stupid. That's all you have to do, and you do something stupid. I'm not saying let's cut Marshawn Lattimore and move on, but what I'm saying is, grow up. Grow up. Someone entrusted you with a bunch of money to come to work and do a job, and you're still getting in trouble. Grow up. I think the Saints are going to get away from that kind of player and get the golden boy, the guy that is clean as a whistle, and that's Greg Newsome. Newsome, he doesn't really have anything bad about him. He just needs to finish interceptions. That's it. He only had one in college. But outside of that, he's clean as a whistle, and I think that's kind of the direction the Saints want to go in. So the Packers are going to be on the clock here. I'm at pick 29. They're going to actually take a receiver. So right now, Terrace Marshall is on the board along with Kadarius Toney. The more I watch Terrace Marshall, because, at this point, if you're a draft Nick, you're kind of like, okay, I'm pretty confident on what I know. And so I've been going back and watching some Terrace Marshall, and the more I look at him, I'm just like, Terrace Marshall is going to be a very good number 2 receiver, right? Much like Kadarius Toney and Elijah Moore. But I don't think Terrace Marshall is as explosive as Elijah Moore and Kadarius Toney, which is why I believe that both of those receivers are going to go before Terrace Marshall, right? So the Packers they're not going to say Kadarius Toney because Aaron Rodgers is old, and Aaron Rodgers is not trying to deal with no headaches right now. get in here, catch the ball, score touchdowns. I'm going to throw 50 touchdowns or whatever, 45 touchdowns, win MVP. We're going to go to the NFC Championship, probably lose, but we're going to have a lot of success. And I don't need you out here acting a fool, right? That's why they're not taking Kadarius Toney in my mock draft. They're taking Elijah Moore. So much like Kadarius Toney, Elijah Moore is on the smaller side. He's 5'9", 185, but he's electric. He fights for extra yards. He ran a 4.35 40. He played 8 games in 2020, had 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns in 8 games. But he opted out the final few games because of injuries. But 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns in 8 games, like that, I can't get over that. That's insane. Like, some people do that in a season, in a career. He had it in 8 games during COVID. That's an explosive weapon. He's still, I don't want to say he has maturity issues, but that piss and miss that he did with, in the game where against Mississippi State, where the kicker ended up missing the extra point because they got the penalty. Like, you're not doing that on Aaron Rodgers' team. It's not happening, right? But I think adding him to Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, oh my goodness, that's going to be something dangerous. So, pick 30 is going to be the Buffalo Bills. They are going to go edge rusher here. They need defensive line help in general, whether that's edge rusher or run stopper or any position. They could just walk up and say, "We take defensive line," and it would be okay because they need to stop the run badly. They need to get pressure on the quarterback. They have to get edge rushers. They have to get defensive tackles, right? But Christian Barmer's not good against the run, so it would make no sense to take him anyway. Plus, he's gone. And I'm not taking Levi Onwuzurike at pick 30. I'm not. But Joe Tryon is going to go in the first round of a draft, right? I just don't see where Joe Tryon's going to go in the first round of my mock draft. But it would not surprise me come, April 29th, he goes in the first round, right? Because he's a really good player. But I'm going to give the Bills Jason Owe here. Players like Jason Owe do bother me because they test off the charts, but the tape looks so different. Like he looks like he played in sand on some tape. And he looks less explosive. But I think a team is going to bet on his traits and his athleticism. Because if you can mold him into a good pass rusher, I believe he'll be a better rusher than Joe Tryon. They'll ignore the 0 sacks in 2020 just because of he's super athletic and because of what he can do as far as like his 40 time and how quick he can get around the edge and things like that. So a team's going to take a chance on him, right? But I think it's going to be one team in particular, right? So let's play a game. Let's take a wild guess on which NFL owner graduated from Penn State in 1973, was appointed to the Board of Trustees by Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolfe in 2018, and gifted Penn State $88 million for their men and women's hockey team and their arena. Anybody want to take a wild guess on who that was? It was Terry Pegula, who just so happens to be the owner of the Buffalo Bills. So which owner in this draft knows Jason Owe better than Terry Pegula? Nobody. Jason Owe is going to Buffalo. So pick 31 is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, like I talked about with Zaven Collins earlier, I just don't think he fits. I don't know what he is. But Jamin Davis is the pick here to Kansas City. I had them trading up to get him in 4.0, but the board kind of fell this way. Davis does fit a need at linebacker. Hitchens is the free agent after 2022, and you need to get younger. Jamin Davis brings athleticism to the linebacking core. His length, along with his 4.47 speed, makes him an attractive option for Andy Reid. So I think he'll fit this team like a glove. And I think he'll be an athletic and an explosive player on this Kansas City defense with Tyrann Mathieu and Juan Thornhill and those guys. So pick 32. The Buccaneers are going to be on the clock here. The Buccaneers do need a receiver, so it would not surprise me at all if they went Kadarius Toney here, because I don't know what it is about Tom Brady, but Tom Brady can take those receivers like Randy Moss and like Antonio Brown and basically tell them, look, we can win championships if you just get your stuff together, right? And I think Kadarius Toney is going to be a perfect person, for for Tom Brady to be like, look, kid, you can make a lot of money in this league. You can be very successful if you grow up. So that's going to be a type of mentorship, and Bruce Arians is the perfect coach for a guy like Kadarius Toney, right? But I don't think Kadarius Toney's going in the first round, right? I believe that the New York Jets are going to come up because they want a fifth-year option on the player, right? So the New York Jets are going to jump up with the Buccaneers. So what are they going to give up? Okay, well, the Jets have 34, so they'll give up 34, and they'll swap that for a 1 this year, and then they'll give up 146. They'll give up a fifth, right? So we'll extend an offer over to Jason Light to see if he likes our offer. He doesn't. So what we'll do is we'll give up. Let's do a 4. We'll do a 4. We'll send it over to Jason Light to see if he likes our offer. Let's see. There we go, Jason Light. Thank you for that. So the Jets are going to come up to pick 32. They're going to actually select the running back, but it's going to be Travis Etienne, because Robert Saleh's offensive scheme requires a one-cut running back, and the best one-cut back in the draft is Travis Etienne. In 2018 and 2019, had 1,600 rush yards in each season. Played 12 games in 2021 and still almost rushed for 1,000 yards. He's not very good in pass pro, but he thrives in that one-cut scheme. Put your foot in the ground and run. He's in the first round, as I said before, because of the fifth-year option. So, I saw some people on Twitter kind of talking about people's mock drafts, and they're like, well, if the Jets are picking at 30, 34, why would they take a running back at 23? Because you get the running back cheap for 5 years. Come on. We know this. Every position in the first round gets a fifth-year option. So you get the running back in the first round, and you have them for 5 years. So let's say the running back's 22 coming out of college. That means when a running back is 27, which is when running backs tend to fall off, you don't got to pay him. That's logic. That just makes sense. So Etienne's going to be the pick here. So we're going to run it back down from the top. We're going to go Trevor Lawrence to Jacksonville, Zach Wilson to the Jets, Justin Fields to the 49ers, Trey Lance to the Broncos, Penei Sewell to the Cincinnati Bengals, Pitts to Miami, Chase to the Lions, Slater to the Panthers, Mac Jones to the New England Patriots, Patrick Surtain II to Dallas, Micah Parsons to the Giants, Devontae Smith to the Eagles, Darisaw to the Chargers, Vera Tucker to the Vikings, Phillips to the Falcons, Horn to the Cardinals, Waddle to the Tennessee Titans. As we keep going, we'll go Ojulari at 18 to the Dolphins, JOK to Washington, Farley on a trade up to Pittsburgh, Tevin Jenkins to Indianapolis, Leatherwood goes 22nd to the Las Vegas Raiders, Kwity Paye to the New York Jets, Sam Cosby to the Chicago Bears, Travon Merrick to the Jaguars, Christian Barmore to play defensive tackle in Cleveland, Rashad Bateman, who played the X, Y, and the Z at Minnesota, will go and be a weapon for Lamar Jackson. Greg Newsom's going to go hopefully replace Marshawn Lattimore, because Marshawn Lattimore is an idiot. But Greg Newsome will go to the Saints. Elijah Moore will go to the Packers. Jason Oweh and his Penn State connections will go to the Penn State graduate Terry Pagula in Buffalo. Jamin Davis will go and eventually replace Anthony Hitchens in Kansas City. And Travis Etienne will go 32nd to the New York Jets on a trade up. And that is going to conclude mock draft 5.0. So, as I said before, we're inching closer and closer to the actual NFL draft. It's Christmas, and I'm excited to watch the first round with my friends, as everyone's been vaccinated. But my love is day 2 and day 3. It's nothing like watching day 3 for 8 hours. That's wonderful, right? So that's going to wrap up this mock draft here, as we'll be back with another mock draft a lot sooner than you think. Appreciate you guys for all the support, the watches, the subs. Make sure you continue to smash the like button, hit that subscribe button as well, and share the mock draft. Again, I appreciate all the support. Hope you guys enjoyed the mock. Give it a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. Y'all be good.